Hey guys, what's up? Tunes everywhere. Tunes are here and tunes are there. So we've got a release of the new Toon monsters coming from a pack, which is also supposed to have Chaos monsters. I'm going to be splitting these videos just to make it a little bit easier to kind of get my opinions on them. And whichever video you want to see, you can choose, or if you want to see both, that would be great. Obviously to support the channel. The first card is Toon Blackluster Soldier. This is a level 8 Warrior Toon effect monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense. This is the same stat line as the original Blackluster Soldier. Its effect is it cannot be normal summoned or set. It must first be special summoned from your hand by attributing Toon monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal 8 or more. While you control Toon World and your opponent doesn't control a Toon monster, this card can attack your opponent directly once per turn. If you control Toon World, you can target one card on the field, banish it. Also, this card cannot attack during the turn this effect was activated. Right, this card is supposed to be a little bit like how Envoy of the Beginning works in terms of its banishing effect. I would say this isn't that great of an effect because it's not a case of you can banish whenever you have this monster in the field. You need to also control either Toon World or Toon Kingdom, which is treats itself as Toon World whilst it's on the field. That's the only way you get that effect, and it also, like the original Envoy of the Beginning, it cancels out your attack for this turn. I would have appreciated if they had the secondary effect in there as well, which would have allowed for it to attack twice, the same as Envoy of the Beginning. And that way, at least it's kind of keeping to the spirit of the card, rather than kind of only having part of its effect. Its summoning condition isn't also that great, though it requires you to use either the hand or field with Toon monsters of level 8 or more. It would have been better if it had also included from the graveyard to have a little bit of that kind of chaos feel about it. That, I think, would have been a great design in it, just to make it more flexible in summoning it. As it is, it's not a great card to bring out just from, if you've got some of the lower level monsters, you're going to have to get rid of at least 2. Even some of the higher ones, you don't have that many. You've got Blue Eyes, there's a Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon, you've got Toon Ancient Gear Golem. I can't think of any others that are level 8. I know there's a couple of level 7s, but that would still require you to have 2 as a cost. So that's quite a downside, just to bring this card out. The couple of good points I think about this card is, unlike Envoy of the Beginning, which focuses on banishing a monster, this lets you banish anything, so it could be a monster, spell or trap. So you've got the flexibility on that. Also, unlike most of the Toon monsters, which when they're summoned you cannot attack on the same turn, this doesn't have that restriction. I think the only other one I can remember who has that same effect is the Toon Dark Magician Girl. So at least you can use this card, and it's a little bit less susceptible to effects. The next card is it's a Toon Harpy Lady. This is quite a bizarre one, I think, personally. Just from the design, I like the design on it. I think it actually looks quite cute as a design, but how effective it is yet to be revealed. It's a level 4 Wind Toon effect monster with the same stat line as the original Harpy Lady: 1300 attack, 1400 defense. It cannot attack during the turn it is summoned. This reminds me a little bit of, that Mermaid Archer. That's quite similar. That it cannot and it has quite similar stats. I think it has 1400 attack and 1500 defense, so very slightly more powerful than this card. If you control Toon World, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then, if you control another Toon monster, you can destroy one spell or trap card your opponent controls. You can only use this effect of Toon Harpy Lady once per turn. While you control Toon World and your opponent doesn't control a Toon monster, this card can attack your opponent directly. Out of the support, I think this is a bit strange. I don't like the card. In the first place, it's not something I would kind of associate with Pegasus having. Mai had a duel with Pegasus in the Waking the Dragons arc, but I never thought they would kind of go with a cyber version, with a Toon version. I don't see where the link is. The other thing is, I suppose the good thing is you've got spell and trap destruction, but then it's not that consistent. You need to control another Toon monster. If you don't have one that special summons itself, or if you don't have the necessary Toon World on the field, this is quite useless. The effect will only trigger if you have both conditions. So unless it's not going to consistently be useful. Also, there's more players tend to run normal spell cards rather than even equip cards or any other card that kind of stays on the field. So getting this effect off is not likely in certain matches. I would say this is quite a good card if you're going to use it in, say, mirror matches, because some of the Toon monsters destroy themselves if Toon World isn't on the field and they've been special summoned through their effect. So that can be useful, but it's kind of lower end in terms of kind of their support. That's it really for the monster side of it, which is quite shocking really. I thought they would have got at least another few monsters, but there you go. This one is called Toon Bookmark. This is a normal spell card which says add one Toon World or one card that specifically lists Toon World in its text from your deck to your hand, except Toon Bookmark. If Toon World you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You can only activate one Toon Bookmark per turn. This reminds me a lot of the Toon table of contents. It basically does the same thing. It lets you search for a Toon-based card. The only thing is this lets you search for kind of generic Toon cards. So you can have some of their spell or trap support as well as their monsters. The only thing I can kind of see as a bit of a benefit over table of contents is this provides your Toon World with a card protection effect. Whilst this card is in the graveyard, you just banish it and it gives you instant protection. This is something that the Toons have needed because if, like I said before, if some of them have been special summoned through their effects and Toon World is destroyed, you lose basically your field, so that's where this is relevant. I like the design of the card as well. Obviously they're going to want a more comic feel to it, so that's a very comical bookmark. I would say the design is actually the best part about it. It is quite consistent, and it also helps to thin your deck, so you can look into better cards. There is, let me see if there's this is the last level of support, and it's actually a counter trap card. This is called Terra Tune. When a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, while you control Toon World and a Toon monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. You can only activate one Terra Tune per turn. I think this is a very useful card, and it's going to be quite consistent. I know you need both Toon World and a Toon monster to use it, but I don't see that as that big of an issue. because you have cards which can help you to activate Toon World, and if you're running a Toon deck, you're likely to be running a pure build rather than splashing in other archetypes, so that consistency isn't an issue. I would say this is actually better than cards that require other specific cards. I would quote something like, with some of the Necro Valley cards, they're a little bit more difficult because they will need not only their effect, but they will need Necro Valley and a Gravekeeper on the field as well. Whereas this requires the same commitments, but they tend to be a bit easier to establish. And also, this kind of negation effect is necessary in order to protect your monsters. What do you think of these cards? Personally, for me, I just think they would have needed more Toon support. I'm hoping this isn't the end of it. I think there is another card which actually I'm going to cover now as well. I noticed that this they released this on Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization a little bit a while ago, so yes, as of yesterday, but they also released a final card, which I'm also going to cover now. Okay, so this is the final card that I mentioned. It's not been translated. It's called Toon Blattern, and they've said that they feel that picking a definitive translation wouldn't be a good idea since there's so many different ways it could be worded, and we're getting a full English reveal of the set soon through the card database. But the general idea of the name is such as flipping or turning a page, referring to how Toon World is depicted as a book. I can see this making sense, considering that the image that you see is of the Shine Palace, which is actually a spell card which increases. It's an equip spell which increases a light monster's attack by 700, and obviously the other side is just what Toon World should look like. I would have liked to have seen that image on the right hand side of the Dark Castle be actually made into a card, but you never know, there might be support further down the line. It's a quick play spell. If you control Toon World, reveal 3 Toon monsters with different names from your deck. Your opponent randomly chooses one for you to special summon, ignoring its summoning conditions. Also shuffle the rest into the deck. You can only activate one of this card's name per turn. So the effect is a hard once per turn. I don't see this as a problem. This lets you get into the relevant Toon monsters that you want, and also by ignoring its summoning conditions, you can get off some of the more powerful ones without going into too much cost. This can be, I would say this is more useful to activate during your opponent's turn. That way, those that restrict themselves from attacking on the turn they're summoned will kind of have that part of their effect negated. It won't matter because they would have existed on the field for a turn. You will instantly be able to go into them. It's also good for the Blackluster Soldier, the Toon one, because this way you don't actually have to get rid of multiple cards. You just bring it out straight from the deck. It's good for the Toon Red Eyes Black Dragon because that can actually special summon other Toons from your hand. So if you can get that out, you can consistently go into your deck. And this reminds me a lot of, there is a Blue Eyes White Dragon support card. I can't remember it as of now. It's like that bingo slot looking card, which does the same thing. It reveal 3 Blue Eyes Blue Eyes monsters, and your opponent randomly selects one. The difference with that is actually this is a lot better. This lets you instantly summon the card and shuffle the other cards back, whereas that card only lets you add that to your Blue Eyes White Dragon to your hand, and the others go back to the deck as well. Is there anything else you would like to see within the Toon supports in the future? Leave your comments down below, like the video if you enjoyed it, And don't forget to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. I'm just trying to boost the views a little bit more than I currently have.